shift gears and talk about your role as a supporter. We discussed in the last section that people can develop what is known as cannabis use disorder, a dependency disorder related to cannabis use. So, how would you know, either as a peer, a friend, or a staff member, when someone might be struggling with their cannabis use? Well, it's about change. Maybe they've increased how much cannabis they use over time, or they talk about having a hard time cutting back, whereas before it was easy to take tolerance breaks. Another major telltale sign might be the way it's impacting their goals and the world around them. So maybe they were doing well in school before, but now they're missing class because of being high, or they're having trouble keeping up with their grades. Maybe it's starting to impact their ability to show up to work on time when usually they're pretty punctual. Or you notice them beginning to isolate themselves from friends and loved ones and hobbies that they were passionate about. Perhaps you've begun to notice things like the presence of mental health issues we discussed before, such as psychotic symptoms like delusions or hallucinations, or they've begun to make harmful decisions that lead to injury. All of these changes can be an indicator that a friend or a student is struggling with their cannabis use, and like with any use disorder, it can begin having major negative impacts on their life. So, how can you help? Well, remember your role is a simple one in this situation. As a whole, keep in mind these four E's. You want to make sure that they feel heard or empathized with when it comes to their experience. You want to provide a space to evaluate what they want to change and how. You want to educate them on options or techniques or resources to accomplish the goals they specified. And then you want to empower them to make what they think the best decision for themselves is. We are the best experts on ourselves. Sometimes we'll disagree with what the friend or the student decides to do, or ultimately how they choose to move forward. And that's okay. At the end of the day, we want to let them know we care, that we're not judging them, and that we're there for support. The expectation isn't that you suddenly become a licensed substance use therapist or that you memorize every resource on campus. Instead, you want them to feel safe and heard disclosing, and you want to be ready to help them navigate options and resources based off of their concerns and specified goals. So, listen and be supportive. Using I statements goes a long way to avoid coming off as accusatory. This might sound something like, I've noticed you've been smoking weed most days, and you've missed a few classes this week. I'm concerned about you and just want to check in. How's everything going? As opposed to saying something like, you're skipping class and you're smoking too much weed. Remember, you're there to create a non judgmental space. These skills are really bolstered and reiterated in a framework known as motivational interviewing. If you haven't been trained in motivational interviewing, NAU offers a lot of options for MI training through offices like health promotion. Another option is to encourage the student to seek support, either through social support systems like friends and family, or through services like counseling services. And of course, we've learned some great harm reduction information in this module too. Maybe their goal isn't complete sobriety, but instead to modify how they use and reduce their risk. This is a great opportunity to offer some of that harm reduction information we've gone over that they can incorporate into their own life. So, our key takeaways. One, the frequency and overall duration of usage has dramatic impacts on the severity of health implications. Cannabis use can have negative impacts on both our physical well being and our mental health outcomes, which can vary depending on things like the potency of what we're using, how often we use, our health history, and our behaviors when under the influence of cannabis. It's important to remember while cannabis is legal in some forms on the state level, federal law and university policy prohibits usage and possession. Also remember, you can't use substances without the presence of some kind of risk. The best way to completely avoid risk is, of course, abstaining from using substances, and NAU does not promote the use of cannabis. However, there are some strategies to reduce the likelihood of severe physical, mental, and legal consequences, which we went over in our harm reduction section. And lastly, as a friend or support staff, creating non judgmental spaces to offer resources and harm reduction information is crucial when supporting someone experiencing a substance use disorder.